Hari Om. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Hari Om and welcome to the third session of Abhijnana Sakuntalam in the Open Learning for All Ola lecture series on Sanskrita Sahitya Rasaswada, and we are reading, not exactly reading, we have started Abhijnana Sakuntalam. And for Abhijnana Sakuntalam we heard about the German poet Goethe that if you want to see the heaven and the earth meeting at one place, oh my friend, please read Shakuntala. Eki bhutam abhuta purvam athava svarloka bhuloka yoho aishwaryam yadi vanchasi priyasakhe Shakuntalam sevyatam. So in that Shakuntala we are seeing the storyline so that you can compare and contrast it with the sources which we have already discussed in the last two lectures, right? So we finished almost the two acts of Abhijnana Sakuntala of Kalidasa. So let us now turn to the third act. In the second act, Dushyanta bids farewell to his dear friend Vidushaka. King Dushyanta sends Vidushaka to the capital city for the completion of the vrata of his mother, and while sending him away, he just warns him, or rather tells him, whatever I told you about Shakuntala, no, that hermit girl. Fortunately, Vidushaka hasn't seen her, okay? So Dushyanta says, whatever I told her, it was just a fun, Parihasa vijalpitam sakhe, na etat paramarthena grihatam vachaha. So we stop there, right? Now we start the third act. Now so many days have passed with Dushyanta is staying in the hermitage to protect the sacrifices, because in the during the absence of Kanva Maharshi, the evil forces, they have emerged, and therefore the sacrifices are facing some problems, right? And therefore Dushyanta has stayed back. Good for him, that to protect the sacrifices, because he is the king and that is his ardent duty to take care of his Prajajana. And that has given him a very good opportunity to meet Shakuntala hereafter. In the third act, but before they meet, one on one, they both are pining for each other. It is like love at first sight, both for Dushyanta and Shakuntala. In fact, in the first act, after both of them they meet, and there is Aranyaka Gajavrittanta, and Priyamvada, Anasuya and Shakuntala, they go to their Uttaja, right? We saw that. So after that, before leaving that site, that the precincts of hermitage, Shakuntala just looks back under the pretext that her garment is stuck in some Kurabaka tree, some thorny bush. It was just a pretext to look once again, take a glance, at Dushyanta. So that is the condition of Shakuntala. Dushyanta is also similarly pining for her, and in the viraha, in the separation, because they are not meeting, because Dushyanta is little bit away because to protect the sacrifices and all, maybe not very near the ashrama, at some other places. So they haven't met, but he is also pining for her. And now in the third act, for the first time, they get an opportunity to meet each other. And they both meet in the Malati Lata Mandapa. The situation is like, Shakuntala is suffering from the heat caused by the fire of love and the separation basically, and therefore as coolant, some things have been used and employed to calm down her bodily heat. It is Virahagni Tapta Sharira of Shakuntala. And to calm it down, to pacify it further, there is Ushira, there is Chandana, there are the lotus leaves, the Sakhis, they make the bed of the lotus leaves, because lotus is bloom in water and therefore it has watery mass, watery content and the thick leaves, and therefore it will give her some solace. And then Ushira is called Khas in Hindi, Vada in Marathi, and Khas. Even now, when there is extreme heat, especially in the northern belt, in the Bihar, Jharkhand and the northern belt, they have the curtains of Khas and they sprinkle water over it, and then the room temperature comes down. Even in the coolers which you get nowadays, what do you have? It is the Khas, and you fill it with water, and there is Khas, to the walls of the cooler, there are the Khas, the वाळ्याच्या पट्ट्या असतात, so वाळ्याचे पडदे and all that. So Ushira, Chandana, these things are carried for her. So we already know this happens in the Vishkambhaka, and therefore the people already, the spectators, readers, they already know that Shakuntala is suffering. And then Dushyanta steps in, and this is the first time they meet in person with each other. Now her friends are smart enough and clever enough, though they are not city-bred young girls, but still they know that the lover and the beloved should get some private place and space for themselves to enjoy each other's company. And therefore with some pretext, oh, there is some Mriga coming here, ehi gachavaha. So Anasuya and Priyambada, they both under some pretext go, and Dushyanta and Shakuntala are left to themselves. Now this is a scene which Kalidasa can go on describing, but he stops. It's not a great description. It's not, pages after pages that you can have the beautiful romantic verses and all that. But because Kalidasa knows where to stop. Describing, having the ability to describe the romance and the romantic situation is one thing, but the best poet is he who knows where and when to stop. So the thing is, Dushyanta, wants to raise her chin little bit and wants to make some advances to her, and how Shakuntala, being a very shy, coy girl and nourished in the natural atmosphere of the hermitage, she wants to, be very a bashful maiden, and she is not like a ilu type of girl, I love you type of girl, right? And therefore she is a very modest girl, and Paurava Raksha Vinayam, she would say, Paurava Raksha Vinayam. And then he proposes that, they should get married by a Gandharva Vivaha and all that. But then she doesn't really approve of that, because she is apprehensive of her father. Her father is away, and a girl, ultimately her responsibility lies with her father, right? So she is not taking, like you can compare it with the Mahabharata episode, or even with the Kathahari Jataka episode, where readily, both get married, and in a moment in Kathahari Jataka, she conceives and all that. So this is not that dry, skeletal type of love story. And they are enjoying in each other's company. That is described at certain length, and somewhere he has to stop. Now what is the time when they meet? The time, Gajendra Gadkar in his book, he has discussed the timeline of every act, and what is the span, or how many days have passed from the first act to second act to third act. All that he has calculated very nicely. Okay, so he says that this Kalidasa's this third act basically, he says, this is happening in the afternoon time, not very morning time. it is afternoon time. The action takes place in the afternoon because it is maybe somewhere between 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. He has specified somewhere between 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. when the king enters. He speaks of this time of intense heat, and towards the close of the act we hear of evening sacrifices. He says, this one, Imam Ugra Atapavelam. So this intense heat, Ugra Atapavelam, and Sayantana Savana Karma, the evening Savana Karma. As in the Vedic rituals we have Pratas Savana, Madhyandina Savana and Sahayam Savana. If there are no Savanas, I mean Soma Rasa being offered, at least 3 offerings in the fire, in the morning, in the afternoon and in the evening. Okay. And then Sundari Anirvano Divasaha, Vatse Parinato Divasaha. When Gautami comes, she says, oh, the day is coming to an end, right? Parinataha Divasaha. So all these indicate, not indicate, they dictate the time that this is evening time. Okay. And the entry of Gautami, that Gautami is coming, when the lover and the beloved are in Ekanta, somebody is coming. As it is in a Natyashastra says that na asamsuchitasya patrasya praveshaha syat. No patra, no character should enter without being indicated, intimated to us by the stage manager. And now here somebody is coming like Dudhat Mithacha Khada, right? And therefore that has to be communicated, and that is communicated in a very wonderful way by Kalidasa. In the Nepathya, because it is the evening time, in the Nepathya there comes a stage direction. Bho Chakravaka Vadhuke Amantrayasva Sahacharam Upasthita Rajani. Now those who know Sanskrit poetry, those who have little background of the poetic fancies and what you can say poetic customs and all, they only can understand this. Bho Chakravaka Vadhuke. See, every word here, every syllable here is so important. It is not just Chakravaka Vadhu, O mate of Chakravaka. Vadhuke, that ka gives you, renders more delicacy and tenderness. So this Chakravaka Vadhu is not a seasoned Chakravaka Vadhu, not a much married woman or maid. She's very young, yet inexperienced. Bho Chakravaka Vadhuke Amantrayasva Sahacharam. It's time to bid farewell to your partner, Sahacharam. Amantrayasva Sahacharam. Why? Upasthita Rajani. Rajani is coming now. Now this has so many things, in that. One thing is, the customary thing for the poets is that the Chakravaka pair of birds, they are together all the time. But only during the night they get separated. They are together, but they get separated by a single lotus leaf which they are unaware of. And whole night they will cry and yell, lament in the absence of their partner. So only when Rajani comes, they get separated, otherwise they are together. So Chakravaka Vadhu, this couple is mentioned, and it is addressed to Shakuntala. It is high time she has to leave, because Dushyanta is invited person, he has to stay in the ashrama, right? But now it is high time, it is evening time, Shakuntala has to retire back to her Uttaja, her kuti. And now the simile indication, the metaphorical meaning here, the Rajani Upasthita. Who is the Rajani here? Gautami, who is coming. She is the one who is causing the separation of the lovers. So Rajani, that is Ratri, the night, causes the separation of the two birds, Chakravaka birds. And here comes Gautami, who is as cruel as the night for these two words. Chakravakavadu ke ka. So ka is like, kvabata harinakanam jivitam chatilolam kvacha nishita nipataha tesharaha. Harinakanam in the very first act. Not harina, harinaka. Bala, balaka. Chakravakavadu, vaduka. Okay. So that gives you the inexperienced nature of Shakuntala. Another very interesting thing I have been telling always my students, just ponder over the word amantrayasva. A upasarga purvaka mantra root. Mantra is to think, to contemplate. Mantrana, mantra, shatkarano bhidyate mantraha, etc. But with a upasarga, it becomes to bid farewell, to say goodbye. Okay. Now in Maharashtra especially, Amantran Patrika, that is for when you invite somebody, invitation card you have to give, for Vivaha, for Upanayana, for any other program. What you call that invitation card? Amantrana Patrika. Strictest sense in the Sanskrit sense, Amantrana is goodbye, don't come. So you have to call it Nimantrana Patrika and not Amantrana Patrika. You know what? After telling this to my senior students in diploma once, in the diploma was not a place to study the entire drama, but there was some, what you can say, introduction to the Kalidasa's 3 dramas, and I was telling this. And because this is very favorite to me, very close to my heart, I always used to distinguish between Amantrana and Nimantrana, and I told them this Amantrana is goodbye and Nimantrana is invite. So when next time you give any invitation card to anybody, print on it Nimantrana Patrika and not Amantrana Patrika. And one such couple who are still in contact with me, they make it a point whenever they send an invitation. We do Gita Patana in their house every year. So it is Nimantrana hai madam, Amantrana nahi hai. So they will call it as Nimantrana and not Amantrana. So these are the nuances. What I say is, these are the nuances. These are the intricacies of language. This is the linguistic intricacy. And Kalidasa is very, very particular. So Amantrayasva Sahacharam, not Nimantrayasva. It is high time you say goodbye, right? Because the separation time has come. So this is interesting for the act number 3, and the timing, as we have seen, is almost evening time. And the Vishkambhaka, when the pupil comes, the Shishya, he comes, it may be the morning time because he is carrying some coolant, ushira, etc. From morning onwards, they are catering to Shakuntala's health. Okay. So this is act number 3. Now coming to the act number 4, again there is a Vishkambhaka. Now Vishkambhaka, Praveshaka, these are like interludes between 2 acts. These are like interludes. Then Vishkambhaka is, like Shuddha Vishkambhaka or Mishra Vishkambhaka. The language which is used in the interlude, if it is both Sanskrit and Prakrit, it is called Vishkambhaka. If it is only Sanskrit, it is called Shuddha Vishkambhaka. If it is mixed, it is Mishra Vishkambhaka. And if it is only Prakrit, instead of calling it Vishkambhaka, we call it Praveshaka. Okay? And Praveshaka never comes before the beginning of the act or at the end of the act, because Sanskrit drama, it has to start with Sanskrit and not with Prakrit. Right? And that way Praveshaka will come invariably in between the 2 acts. So we have, before the 6th act starts, we have a Praveshaka where we have the Dhivara Vrittanta and all. Okay? So this is Vishkambhaka. Now the Vishkambhaka takes place in the 4th act, somewhere outside the exact hermitage, Kanava's hermitage, and where the girls are collecting flowers because, they are very, and they are collecting flowers. Shakuntala is near her Uttaja. Shakuntala is near her Uttaja because she is thinking of Dushyanta. Dushyanta has gone away now, okay? Dushyanta has gone away and she is thinking, she is engrossed in her own thoughts and unaware of anything happening around her. And Anasuya and Priyambada are not very far from the Uttaja. They are collecting flowers and they hear Durvasa coming there. And Shakuntala khoi khoi si hai, so she doesn't pay any, she doesn't even listen to Durvasa talking or calling, oh, is there somebody here? She doesn't even listen to that. And then Durvasa, we all know Hindu mythology, Durvasa is a Shighra Kopi Rishi, and therefore he curses her and wants to go out. Now these girls are not very far from the Uttaja. We have seen in the first act also, they are watering the plants, not very far, right? So they listen to that, and one of them, who is Priyambada by name, one is Anasuya, the other is Priyambada. You know, this Kalidasa, how many places we have to just salute him, you just go on counting. It is countless. He has created characters in like pairs. Here it is Anasuya and Priyambada. Both are very dear to Shakuntala. Both love Shakuntala more than their own selves. But there is a slight difference between Anasuya and Priyambada. Anasuya is little bit more like matured type of a friend, little elderly perhaps. Basically they are of the similar age. 1 or 2 years here and there doesn't make much difference. But there are some girls who are more matured for their age at times, right? So Anasuya is that category. And there are certain girls who are more flamboyant, which is contrary to their age sometimes, right? Priyambada is that type of girl. So but she is Priyambada, she is a Madhura Bhashini, and therefore Kalidasa sends her to appease Durvasa Rishi. And then she comes back, you know, the flowers are scattered here and there, listening to the curse. How is Swabhavika, very natural reactions of these two girls. And then she comes back and they both discuss, yeah, now it's okay, no? Why? Because Durvasa said, if Shakuntala shows the ring, what was the curse before that? Curse was the person in whose thoughts you are so engrossed that you are not aware of any Atithi, that person will forget you. That is the curse. That was a deadly curse, right? But then, and hearing that curse only, these two girls are rushing. But now there is an Ushapa, an antidote given by Durvasa, that if the girl shows some, Abhijnana, something which carries the which belongs to that person, then he will remember her. And they are so relieved. Thank God Dushyanta has given his ring while departing from here, right? And therefore they are very, very happy. And then they discuss, should we tell all this to Shakuntala? There was a curse, there is this antidote. What do you feel? Should they have told her? Then the entire drama would have ended. There was no dramatic element then. Had they told Shakuntala this, Shakuntala would have been extra careful to protect the ring, right? And then the drama which happened in the 5th act wouldn't have happened. And then the Abhijnana which comes in the 7th act, and the remorse of Dushyanta which comes in the 6th act, all poetically described. That wouldn't have happened. And that would have been so plain and matter-of-fact manner, right? Oh Shakuntala, you were engrossed, there came Durvasa, you didn't pay any attention, he cursed you, but no problem, you have to take care of your ring. I mean, this becomes so prosaic, Allah. This is so prosaic, and therefore Kalidasa has, Utkantha is one of the Vyabhichari bhavas. There are 33 Vyabhichari bhavas. Autsukya is there, Utkantha is there. What will happen next? So there is always has to be some curiosity in the minds of the reader spectators, right, about the future happenings. Utkantha. What is utkantha? Ut is upward. Kantha is like, oh, what will happen now? And then you calm down. Utkantha. So the kantha real, the words are also so significant, right? Etymologically, utkantha. Anyhow, so the utkantha remains intact, and therefore she is not told that. And you know what Kalidasa remarks there? He says, Konu khalu ushnodakena navamallikam sinchati. What a beautiful simile. Normally we find alankaras in verses, in poetry. When you read Kalidasa, every word, every prose sentence has some or the other alankara. Ko nama ushnodakena, who will sprinkle hot water at the roots of what? Navamallika, the tender mallika flower. Again a simile, Shakuntala is as delicate as Navamallika, and the episode of the curse telling her would be Ushnodaka for her, murjha jayegi, right? And therefore we should not. So everything, these friends, how much concerned they are of Shakuntala, so that the love between friends, how strong it is. So this is a wonderful example of that also. So Maitra, Sanskrit Sahityatle Maitra, I had written long back one small article on that. If I find it, I will ask Ridya to circulate it, okay. So anyhow, so they don't tell her about that. And the curse episode has gone. And now what happens is, in the same thing, after this Vishkambhaka, some 20 days interval passes. Gajendra Gadkar has done all the calculations, and therefore I don't have to do it. About 20 days interval separates the Vishkambhaka of the fourth act from the third. From the third act to fourth act, Vishkambhaka, 20 days have passed, and during this period, the Gandharva marriage has taken place. 20 days is a long time for them to copulate and enjoy each other's company. During this period, Gandharva marriage has taken place and Shakuntala has conceived, though her conception is not known to others. Okay. And it appears the sacrifice for protecting which Dushyanta was required to stay at the hermitage had lasted for over a month or so, and therefore he stayed there almost for a month, and when it got over, he was allowed to go back to the capital. So he is returning. So almost a month's stay of Dushyanta in the hermitage. Okay. About 4 or 5 months must be supposed to have passed between the Vishkambhaka of the fourth act, Vishkambhaka, and the fourth act proper. Now the fourth act proper is what? When Kanva comes back from Somatirtha. Fourth act is the act. Kavyeshu natakam ramyam, tatra ramya Shakuntala, tatrapi cha chaturtho ankaha, tatra shloka chatushtayam. Tatrapi cha chaturtho ankaha. So Vishkambhaka has taken place, we have seen all these things, but the main act would commence only when Kanva returns. Okay. And once he returns, he sees Shakuntala abhivyakta sattva lakshana. So the signs of pregnancy are clearly visible. That means 4-5 months must have passed for a woman to show the signs of pregnancy on her body. So that means Kashyapa was away, Kanva Kashyapa. Kanva is the son of Kashyapa. Kashyapa, Marichi, and then Kanva. So he is many times called as Kashyapa as well. Okay. So at least 6 months might have passed. We have seen where is Kanva's hermitage? At the foothills of Himalayas, where Malini river flows. And where has he gone? To Kathiawar, to Gujarat, Somatirtha, right? Somnath, to pacify her bad stars. So going there and coming back would require on foot. So it would require 5-6 months for him. And then the sage had to journey from foot, etc. Now the actual time of the Vishkambhaka appears to be the morning between 8 am to 9 am, when generally young girls collect flowers. When Anasuya and Priyamvada are out to collect flowers, normally he has done all the calculations, the times also and the period also, okay. So the Bali Karma and the worship of Shakuntala's Saubhagya Devata were yet to be performed, and it is reasonable to suppose that they were done at about midday. Now in the morning this incident has taken place, okay. What? The curse, etc. After that there has some time lapsed, okay, some time lapse is there. And when the main act starts, for that also her Saubhagya Kanava sees her as Abhivyakta Sattva Lakshana and all that, and he decides that he has to send her to her husband's place, because it is not good for ladies to remain in their father's place after marriage, and therefore he decides that. And after deciding that, he sends his shishyas to gather flowers and leaves, and some, she has to be decorated before she is sent away, not just like that in the bark garment. And now here again, you see that how Kalidasa has become one with the nature. We say always that Kalidasa is a nature poet. In what sense is nature poet? One thing is, the nature which he describes is not just an inanimate prakriti around the human beings. It is as good as an animated, pulsating character in his drama. Okay, that is one thing. And secondly, how nature helps the human beings. So the connection of the nature and the humans is very, very intimate and intense. Now here, when her Saubhagya Devata is to be worshipped before she is sent back to her husband, naturally Kanva says, his shishyas, that get some ornaments, get some good clothes, etc. Kshauma, Dukula, she is clad in bark garment, but he can't send her in bark garment. And Kanva's tapas samarthya is so much that the shishyas just go and stand in front of under the tree, and the sylvan deities, the Vanadevatas, they would give them whatever they wish for. Okay, so Kshaumam Kena Chidindu Pandu Taruna. So white silken cloth, some tree gave that, some tree gave, Shakha Hastena, some ornaments and all that. And you see, when the trees are laden with flowers and the branches are horizontal, you see as if they are the hands of the trees. These are as if the hands of the sylvan deities, the Vanadevatas. Even in the Meghaduta, the Vanadevata reference comes. So this is the second type of intimacy of human nature relation. Okay, and now the main act starts somewhere in the morning, because Kanava is in his Agnishala, and the Agni Puja has to be done in the morning times, and then only he will send her. After doing puja, she does the pradakshina and all that. So all that description is there. Okay, and then we learn towards the end, we find that Sharangrava tells Shakuntala that the sun has ascended to another division of the sky, which means it is now past 9 am. So now we must go, otherwise we will be late and we will have to travel in the hot sun. So 9 o'clock maybe they depart from Kanava's ashrama. So this is the timeline of the main act. The Vishkambhaka we already saw. This is the timeline of the main act, and this act is very, very important because it has, very beautiful verses. Why Tatra Shloka Chatushtayam? There are, every verse in the fourth act is very touching. Be it, like when he says how you should behave in after going to Dushyanta's court, how you should treat your co-wives, what sort of your behavior should be with your servants and other people, parijana and all that. That is also there. And how he blesses her. How he blesses her. And when she asks again, that when shall I come back here and see you, O my father? Because she is very sad at leaving the ashrama. So what will be the proper time for me to come back to meet you? Because you are already so emaciated with tapa. On the top of that, you are concerned about me. You have traveled a lot. So, you please take care of your health. As a daughter would say her father, all that touching scenes are there. And then what Kashyapa says, Kanava says to her, that when you get a son, you are going to get a son, because she is pregnant now. And he knows from Antarjnana, it is a Chakravarti. Bharata being born to her, will be born to her. So after enthroning him, you make him king, and then both of you come here for your Vanaprastha. That time you can see me. It is not every now and then Maika and Sasural, going for every festival, going for Diwali, going for Holi, going for this, going for that to Maika. No, nothing like that. I mean, it is not that the capital city is too far. It's hardly 3 hours, because we'll see the timeline again, thanks to Professor Gajendra Gadkar, that they reach there before noon. 9 o'clock they start, they reach there before noon, right? So it's not that far away, but still he doesn't encourage her coming back to the ashrama every now and then. He tells her, Aram se, Vanaprastha, then only you can come here. Okay? And as Sharmishtha was to Yayati, so be you, with Dushyanta. And when she salutes him, the Ashirvada which he gives her is, Yadichhasi, Yadichhami tadastute. Yadichhami tadastute. Whatever I wish for you, let it be with you. And a father will wish all good for his daughter, right? Yadichhami. Normally, when some people, because I am an elderly person, so some people salute me, bow down to me, I say, Yadichhasi tadastute. Whatever you wish, let your wishes get fulfilled. But Kanava has blessed her, Yadichhami tadastute. And there is a beautiful description of Kanava's sorrow. We saw in the Mahabharata, Munihi Ashruni Avartayat. That was the line, right? So he shed some tears. Now here the tears are coming. His eyes are filled, but he is not letting those tears. His voice is choked because the tears are, he wants to hide and conceal his feelings. And then he says that, Snehad Aranyau Kasaha, if this is the type of love for daughter of a person like me who is Aranyau Kasa, who is staying in a forest, who is a forester, and she is not my Tanaya, she is not my daughter, I am her foster father. Pidyante gruhinah katham nu tanaya vishlesha dukkhairnavaihi. What sort of intense sorrow the grihins, the grihasthas, would be suffering when they send off their own flesh and own blood to their husband's house, to their, far away. Pidyante grihinah katham nu tanaya vishlesha dukkhaihi navaihi. Vishlesha dukkha, that is new, because this Vishlesha dukkha comes only once in the lifetime of a father and daughter, right? Vishlesha. Next day when she comes home for kankana releasing and all that, she comes away happily, Earlier night she had shed tears, she was all crying and all people are crying. But next day or after 2 days for puja or kankana vimochana, when she comes back to her father's home, she is all happy. That is how this Srishti moves on like this, Otherwise you will feel sorry for everything and you won't let your child go. In fact, Kanava, at the end, he says that this is like a nyasa, pratyarpita nyasa ivantaratma. I feel so relieved. This was a deposit kept with me to take care of. This was the deposit which really belonged to Dushyanta. Now having given him his own deposit, I feel little relieved. So that is the feeling, and this I tell you, this is a universal feeling. Even in these days, बिदाई का वक्त जब आता है, all women, all girls will cry, all fathers will cry, and what all thing happens, that is just to experience, and even looking at that, tears start flowing, right? I won't speak much on that. So that is Act 4. Then we come to 5, 6 and 7. 5 is a very wonderful act, because after this pathos, in the 4th act, you need something which changes the mood of everybody. You can't be crying and lamenting all the time. So this mood swings, how Kalidasa manages. The 5th act starts with Hamsapadika's song. Hamsapadika is one of the wives of King Dushyanta, but of late he has started, not caring for her much. She feels neglected at heart, and therefore she is kuch ulahana de rahi hai. She is sarcastically saying that nowadays, this Brahmara is, it doesn't like the Amra Manjari, Chuta Manjari. The Brahmara is content with the Kamala Vasati Matram. Kamala Vasati Nirvruti. And that Kamala, she may refer, nobody knows about Shakuntala, right? So Kamala may refer to Vasumati, his elder queen. So that is the thing. And when king hears that, he understands that this is for me, and therefore he sends Vidushaka. Vidushaka was with him. He sends Vidushaka to tell her, it is not like that, and the king is coming to see you and all that. So Vidushaka is sent away, because immediately next scene, the ashrama people come there. Sharangrava, Sharadvata, 2 hermit boys, again two different natures. Sharangrava, it is like the rava, the dhvani, the sound of a bow, Sharanga, Shrungamaya, Dhanushya. So Dhanushyacha Tanatkar, he is very loud, he is very aggressive like that. Sharadvata is little mild. Always, Kalidasa has these 2 different types of characters, but in pairs. Sharangrava, Sharadvata, Anasuya, Priyamvada. There in Malavikagnimitram, Dharini and Iravati. So like that, every time he enjoys characterizing such pairs, with different characteristics. So Gautami also comes. And this is the scene where, there is heated arguments are going on between Shakuntala and Dushyanta. And Dushyanta, apparently because he is under the realm of the curse, we all know that it is a curse, right? And Shakuntala has lost her ring. Obviously, we'll come to know it later when she tells it. But then, so we are sympathetic for the king. And Shakuntala, poor thing, we feel so sympathetic for her. All our empathy goes for this young girl who is pregnant, Asanna Prasava. And what will happen to her if king rejects her? Where will she go? And when Gautami, when she wants to say that, let us go back, Sharangrava says, Patikule tava dasyamapi kshamam, dasyamapi varam. When you got married, did you consult any one of us? Bhog apल्या कर्माची फळं. You have to suffer for your bad deeds, because you never cared for the elderly people. You did what you liked. Suffering also you have to do. So saying this, they go away, and nobody can do anything, right? And Shakuntala, so Shakuntala, poor girl, when king doesn't recognize her, she wants to remind him, do you remember when we were sitting, that is the scene of the 3rd act, that we were both together in the Ekanta, and then there came that Mrigapotaka, which is very dear to me. That Mrigapotaka, that little fawn was very thirsty and you were ready to offer water to it in the Kamalapatra, in the Kamaladrona, but it didn't drink the water from your hands. And when I offered that, it drank the water. And then you said, basically, yuvam dvavapi yuvam aranyakau. So both of you are aranyaka, so he knows you better than me. That's why, do you remember that? King, like, oh, you are making stories. And he accuses her, and he quotes, the example of Parabhritika, the cuckoo, the bird cuckoo, which lays her eggs in the nest of the crow to be nurtured by the female crow. So you want to get your papa, this fetus, nurtured in the royal house. So he, Strinam pratyutpannamatitvam, you can make stories instantaneously like that, he accuses her. And then when she wants to show the ring is not there. And then Gautami says, and she also supplements that, Shachi Tirthe Vandamanaya Hastat Prabhrashta Mangoliyakam. That also he laughs it out, right? And then, Purohita comes forward and says that you are destined to have a Chakravarti son, and therefore it's better that till she gets delivered, I will keep her in my house, and then we'll see the Lakshana on the child's hands and feet, and then you decide whatever you want to do. And Purohita takes her. In the meanwhile, the Sharangrava, Sharadvata, Gautami have already departed. Purohita takes her and comes back instantaneously saying, while I was taking her to my home, an aerial, from air, a woman figure came, lifted her and went away. So I don't know where she went. So Apsaras Tirtha and all that, he says. But then this is the only supernatural element where Menaka, her mother, comes and she can't tolerate any more the repudiation and insult, humiliation of her daughter, and she comes and saves her, and she takes her in her custody. She keeps her till she gets delivered, and then she is deposited with Hemakuta in the Maricha's ashram, and all that story we come to know later on. Now the sixth chapter, sixth act, it starts with the Praveshaka, and the Praveshaka happens somewhere besides not the main court scene, but besides in some suburbs perhaps, and two police officers, they have caught one Dhivara, one fisherman, while selling the Rajamudrika, the king's signet ring. They catch him because they suspect, and there is a proof, you have stolen the king's mudrika. How come king's ring came to you? So you must have stolen it. And they beat him, and now you see what will happen, king will punish you, this, that, the typical police and criminal behavior, how they interact with each other, and Zaban khulwane ke liye, from him, what all tricks they play, all that, it hasn't changed much even now. It hasn't changed much even now. So what is that, the kuch treatment bolte hai na, kya, in the custody, third degree treatment and all that, beating and all. So all that happens, and they send that ring to the superintendent of police, who will take it to the king. The superintendent of police also says, now the king, I will take an order from the king, and then Shunaha Mukham Drakshasi, etc., all that punishments, bad punishments, etc., he mentions. And he comes with the king. I mean, he doesn't show the ring to the king, that is not shown. He comes back immediately with so many Suvarna Mudras in a bag and says, I don't know what happened, but when I showed this ring to the king, suddenly the king became very emotional, and he was very sentimental, and he gave this as a prize to you. And all this while, all these police people, the superintendent and two police officers, They were accusing his profession also. Oh, Ajivika, what is your Ajivika? Catching fish. That's why you are smelling of fish, rotten fish, and every type of, mockery they were doing. Now Dhivara asked them only one question. Atha katham me ajivaha? How is my livelihood now? How do you feel? He was telling that I was out for catching fish. I got this rohita, a typical fish. Rohita, I am not expert in identifying fishes. So rohita, a big fish, and when I cut it, I got a ring from the belly of the fish. That's how he is telling. And now the people, they are very happy, and gale mein haath dal ke, okay, let us celebrate this, that you got released and you got this award. So in that award, the Dhivara, without they asking for that, he says, half of it I will give you. Whatever reward I have got, half of it I will give you. And then, okay, let us celebrate. Where? Liquor shop. So this incident might have taken place in the evening, because normally liquor shops get crowded in the evening and during the night. Okay. Now that was the Praveshaka. After that, Kalidasa paints a very beautiful picture of Dushyanta. After getting the ring, he recognizes, no, it is Abhijnana. So Abhijnana, Shakuntala, the entire scene, like a flashback, comes back to him, and then he says he is filled with remorse and repentance and cursing his own self, blaming his own self. Why I did that? My bhagya came to me walking and I just discarded that. I kicked my bhagya. So he is filled with remorse. Then he does a beautiful painting and all that. So we'll see it when otherwise I am tempted to describe everything now, then you won't enjoy it later, right? So let me do it later, because I want to finish it in 5 minutes, the 7th act now. Okay, so the 6th act is like this, and again, here there are some mood swings. The 5th act was like heated arguments. The 6th act, first the Dhivara incident, and that is very, very informally dealt with by Kalidasa, and how the thefts are investigation into the crimes and all that is not changed even now. So that also is taken place. And now in the 6th act, all of a sudden king becomes, like very sad, melancholic, and he cancels all the Madanotsava etc. in the kingdom. No Utsava, because king himself is melancholic. And then there is a Dhanamitra episode also. I won't tell much about it. So that adds to his agony, because he is issueless. There happens to be an incident of Dhanamitra, very, chief of the guild of the merchants. He dies in a shipwreck, right? So India's maritime activities and navigation and all that in the 1st century BC. And according to the then rules, all the property of the merchant should have been deposited in the king's treasury, leaving aside some portion to subsist for the ajivika of his wives and all. But then he inquires, because he is the chief of the merchant guild, he must have many wives. So just see whether one of his wives is pregnant. I don't want to confiscate all that money. That money has to go to the child, because he himself has suffered now. His child was there with the mother and he kicked them off, So all that, how am I to show my face to my ancestors? Who will give avapa, tilanjali to my forefathers? All that, he's filled with remorse. Now again, that mood has to be changed. Now you remember, Vidushaka has been sent to this one, Hamsapadika's court and all, and from there he starts shouting. He has gone to the Meghachanda palace, and there he starts shouting, oh, I am grabbed by somebody, oh my friend, if you don't come, I am gone now, bye bye. All this thing happens, and then the king literally, girding up his loins, and who is there, mere hote hue, like that stuff. So he goes to, So that Kshatra Teja of Dushyanta has to be aroused, right? Because he can't sit in that melancholic state for a long time, being a Kshatriya. So that Kshatra Teja comes out, and what is that? It is Matali, king's Indra's Sarathi has come down, to fetch, to take Dushyanta with him to assist Indra in fighting the demons called Durjayas. Whenever there is a Surasura Yuddha, Indra always, because he is more of, like an easy go person, and therefore he always takes help of some mortal kings. So Dushyanta is his favorite mortal king. So he has asked Matali to bring Dushyanta with him. So Matali has done this play just to arouse the Kshatra Swabhava of Dushyanta. And then they have gone back. The seventh act, he goes back, he goes with Matali. Seventh act, this must be, sixth and seventh, some 10-15 days time must have passed, because to fight and gain victory for Indra, at least that much time is required. And then while coming back, the Ratha halts at Hemakuta mountain. Hemakuta mountain is where Maricha's ashrama is located, and there is a beautiful description first, how from the mid region, airy path they come, the Avaha and Pravaha, wind path, the Ratha descends, not ascends, Ratha descends down on the earth on that mountain. And then the king happens to see young boy playing with the lion cub, and how gradually he gets, captivated by the little pranks of the child, of the Sarvadamana, and he has some sort of that filial feeling emerging in his heart, as if that child belongs to him. So that sort of love, a fatherly love and affection starts emerging in his heart. And how, I think there are some 7, 8, 9 steps. I will take all these steps when we'll read the drama word by word. So after the last step, he understands that he is Shakuntalayaha putraha. And there also there is a beautiful pun on like Chakravaka Vaduke, there is Saundalavannam Pekha. So that I will explain later on. And then there comes Shakuntala also, very lean and emaciated, and because she is a Parityakta after all, right? And a single parent caring for her child and all. And then there is a reunion. The entire story, I took these 2 lectures to give you the storyline, right? Now these 2 lectures were not necessary. I could have summed it up in a line. Dushyanta Shakuntala story is love at first sight and union. Then there is separation and reunion. That's it. But is it only that much? Why there is a union and why there is a separation after union? And if there is a separation after union, the reunion has to be there. It is warranted. Because this separation has to be there, because the first union is born of more of a Vaishayika Vasana. It is more of a carnal pleasure, the Indriya Janya Sukha. It is love at first sight. It is not the deep rooted love. It is not the platonic love. It is the bodily love. So that is Vasana. In a way it is Vasana. Though it is necessary, it is Vasana. And for both the hero and the heroine to understand and realize the depth of the true, genuine love, separation is must. Only when they get separated, they realize the value of the genuineness of the true feeling of love. And when they have suffered enough, then it is high time. The suffering has reached the saturation and now they need to get reunited, right? So this is union, separation and reunion. Only 3 words can explain. In fact, these are the steps of every Sanskrit drama in a way. There is a union or there is a love. Then there are so many obstacles. We have read Malavikagnimithram. There was the feeling of love, but there were too many obstacles, that is suffering, and then they get reunited. So either there is separation or there are obstacles, right? So love doesn't get fulfilled like that. You have to understand and realize the value thereof, right? And therefore this is a very wonderful drama. In fact, Rabindranath Tagore and many others have propounded a theory that the dross in the feeling of love had to be burnt. All that malinya had to be burnt, and therefore the remorse on the part of Dushyanta and repudiation, humiliation on the part of Shakuntala was needed, because both were enamored by physical beauty at the first sight, and therefore they had to suffer, and then it was suffering was enough, then they were united. So this is the favorite theory of many commentators on Shakuntala. So with all these backgrounds, now 3 lectures dedicated to the introduction, the sources and the storyline in short, we will start reading the Nandi from the next lecture. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.